Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahilladzi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haqq liyudhhirahu 'ala dini kullih wa kafa billahi syahida. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la syarikalah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma shalli wa sallim wa barik ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna ma yanfa'una wa zidna 'ilma. Subhanaka Allahumma la 'ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal 'alimul hakim. Allahumma arhamna bil Qur'an waj'alil Qur'ana hujjatan lana wa la hujjatan 'alaina amin ya rabbal alamin. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and send blessings and salutations upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his entire household, his entire family, his entire companions, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless them all and to bless every single one of us. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Brothers and sisters, arsyadakumullah, hafizakumullah, ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. Welcome to our course, to this course, structure Tajweed based on Tuhfatul al-Atfal textbook. So we are so excited to have you all here. Some people are here in the masjid, downstairs and upstairs, and some in online. Some people are still on their way. I think they told me they're still on the way. That's fine. So my name is Bayu. And inshallah I'll be the instructor of this course, inshallah. So just a little bit of background. This course is organized by Masjid Uthman bin Affan, based in Hillsborough, Auckland. And inshallah, this is our second course. And just a little bit, here at the masjid, we have a regular tahsin program. So every Saturday, for example, like the brothers, every Saturday afternoon, we have brothers reading the Quran and have the recitation reviewed, provided some feedback, basically improving the recitation of the Quran, which is why called tahsin. However, the tahsin program is focusing more towards the practical. So like practicing letter by letters, words by words, improving the recitation. But we didn't really have a more theoretical course, and that's why around mid of September 2019 we created this course, Tuhfatul al-Atfal, and we completed around basically around 10 sessions. Now this is the second one, so we would like this one to be based on the feedback. It should be the audience would like this to be delivered in English, so it would be beneficial for more audience. And alhamdulillah, we intend to start this, and maybe have anyone have heard about Tuhfatul Atfal? Anyone in the Zoom or here? Maybe you guys haven't heard about Tuhfatul Atfal? Yeah, you don't know. That's okay. Yeah, or maybe if some of you have learned about or even memorized Tuhfatul Atfal, but if you don't know, don't worry. If you haven't heard about the Tuhfatul Atfal, in short, it's one of the most famous Tajweed texts, or in a poem format. So because it's in a poem format, so it has some rhyme, it has some like pattern, so it's easier to be memorized. So it's standardized. And if you search for online Tajweed course online in the US or anywhere, or even offline, you would see that most of the scholars would recommend one of them is the Tuhfatul Atfal textbook, and the other textbook normally that's recommended is Muqaddimah al-Jazari. But we're going to touch that a little bit on that later. Uh, like we're going to discuss what is Tajweed, what is Tuhfatul Atfal. We're going to discuss that later today. So before we start, maybe just a little bit of housekeeping. If you are here, you don't forget to sign in. Don't forget to sign in with your COVID Tracer app, and for if you for brothers and sisters, let me just put on the chat. I think I have one brother who is not joining the audio yet, so I'll just put a chat. Make sure you join the audio. And if you have any questions, feel free to put on the chat if you're online. If my sound is not too clear, it's just let me know. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Let me try to. I'll hold the mic. I think it's already max. It's okay. Hopefully it's okay. Maybe I should hold the mic. So if you cannot for online, if you cannot hear any sound, make sure you join the audio. And for online, for brothers, if you can turn on your video. If not, that's fine. And so for sisters, it's not mandatory to turn on video. It's up to you, and you can submit questions anytime. So on the Zoom, if you have any question, just put it on the chat, and occasionally I will check the chat to see if there's any question. And any questions post the session, you can ask on the group. If you're on the group, you can, there's a group and WhatsApp group and Telegram group. So if you have any question post the session, feel free to put it there. And a copy of today's presentation, inshallah, will be made available on the YouTube and also on Google Drive, inshallah. So that's a little bit of housekeeping, and now let's go into the agenda. So for today, what are we going to cover in the session? So inshallah, there are 4 parts that we're going to cover in today's session. So the first one will be just a little bit on a short bio about myself, so we get to know each other. I would love to know every single of you participants, but I think we're going to send you a survey on that, so we get to know what's your skills in terms of Tajweed, what is your expectation out of this course, so we can develop along the way if there's anything that we can improve. And then course overview. So what is this course all about? Why do we hold this course? Hopefully it matches your expectation. And before we go into the actual Tuhfatul Atfal textbook, we're going to touch something called Mabadi al-Ashr, or the 10 foundational principles of Tajweed. So basically, it's before we exploring, getting into the weeds of the book, maybe we have some questions like, what is Tajweed? What do we get from learning Tajweed? Who are the pioneers? Why do we use this book, and why not other other books, and who wrote this book, and is it a must? Is it mandatory for everyone to learn Tajweed, and what's covered in the Tajweed? And then lastly, maybe a little bit of Q&A. So that's the overview of the agenda for today, inshallah. Inshallah. So we'll go to the next one will be my short bio, just a quick one. My name is Bayu, originally from Indonesia, born in the year of 1407 Hijriah, in the month of Dhul Hijjah. In my daytime job, I'm an ICT consultant, and these are some of my teachers in Al-Quran, in Tajweed, and also I've learned and hold some of the sanad or chain of narrations like the Tuhfat al-Atfal, Muqaddimah al-Jazari, Al-Mufid fi ilmi Tajweed, Qasidah Khatwaniyah, Manzuma Shatibiyan, and some others. So these are some like the classic Tajweed textbooks. We're going to touch on that as well later. Don't worry if you don't know any of them, but that's just a quick one on my bio. Then the next one will be the course overview. So make sure that you're attending the right course, so the Tuhfatul Atfal course. So this course is for people who already can read the Quran, because we're not going to teach how to read alif, ba, ta, tha, and so on. We expect you to know how to read the Quran, but maybe if you don't know how to read it properly, as in what is the Tajweed rules, that's what we're going to cover in this course. And or if you already know the Tajweed, but you maybe it's a bit scattered all around, and you would like to understand in a structured way, or would like to understand from a book, so you know it more structure, then this will be the course, inshallah. And the target for this course actually is for us to understand Tajweed in a more structured way. What's the first one to learn in Tajweed? What's the second, and so on? And what's the overall Tajweed looks like? That's the target that we're going to provide to you, and to understand what are the Tajweed topics for, so you can teach Tajweed in general as a starting point, and hopefully go more advanced. And the content itself will be focusing more on the theory, on the Tajweed rules, maybe not so much on the practical, but we'll so just on that. So every session, because on every session we're going to touch one topic, then inshallah we'll from that topic we'll have some examples of how does this rules apply, what are the examples, and we can do some practical on that rules, and hopefully we can go around and we can maybe do a little bit of tahsin, but that's not the focus. The focus is to understand more of the theoretical part. And we're targeting to have at least 45 minutes for some of the short topic, and maximum hopefully up to 1 hour. We would like to have less, so that you don't get tired or getting bored. So that's why we try to as much as possible to put it within the 60 minutes. But yeah, it depends on the questions. And materials will be slide decks will be available, weekly quizzes. There will be some online quiz. It's optional, but it's really helpful to evaluate your understanding, to do this online quizzes. It's only 4 questions, and it's a multiple choice. So the idea is that you can ask yourself on that topic, and you know how to look for the answer. And lastly, final exam. And after today's session, we're going to have one survey, and hopefully we can give away one of the books. So this is Tuhfatul al-Atfal book in English. It's available on Amazon. So hopefully we're going to have a survey, and we're going to draw from the survey and give away one of this book. I'll send the survey link later as well on the group and on the email. Okay. Now, before I continue on on the next topic, is there any questions so far from brothers here or sisters upstairs or anyone in the Zoom? No? Okay. If you have any question, especially on the Zoom, people on brothers and sisters on Zoom, you guys just put on the chat, because I'll be monitoring the chat, so I can read and when I have the time, and inshallah will answer to your questions. So before we start, before we go into the content, which is the 10 foundational principles, or al-Mabadi al-Ashra, inshallah we're going to narrate one hadith. So this, if you have heard about this hadith, it's hadith al-Rahmah, hadith al-Musalsal bil-Awwaliyah. So musalsal, if you learn about hadith, musalsal in brief, it's a hadith that follows a specific pattern on its chain, or in its sanad, irrespective of the content of the matan or the text. For example, there's a musalsal bi yawmil Eid, which means the hadith has a pattern. It always gets narrated, transmitted during the Eid day. Hadith musalsal bi yawmil Eid. So from the always on the Eid day, it's getting narrated, passed from generation to generation. Now in this particular hadith, it's called musalsal bil awaliyah. So musalsal bil awaliyah, this hadith, so every single person on the chain, every single person said that this is the first hadith that I've heard from my sheikh, from my teacher, from my parents, and so on, and all the way like that. So it's in Arabic, وَهُوَ أَوَالُ حَدِيثٍ سَمِعْتُهُ مِنْهُ. This is that is the first this is the first hadith that I heard from my sheikh. So for example, I heard from I've heard so many times, but in this example, from one of my sheikh, Abu Abdullah Rikrik Aulia Rahman As-Suryanji. So it was the first hadith that I heard from him. That what was the first hadith that I heard from him, and he heard this hadith from one of his teachers, and it was the first hadith. So I'll just read this quickly. So بسند المتصل إلى سفيان ابن عيينة عن عمرو بن دينار عن أبي قابوس مولى عبد الله بن عمرو بن العاص عن عبد الله بن عمرو بن العاص رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن تبارك وتعالى ارحموا من في الأرض يرحمكم أو يرحمكم من في السماء, which means which means ar-rahimuna, those who are merciful will get mercy from ar-Rahman, the most merciful, and irhamu man fil ardi, irhamu man fil ardi, have mercy upon those in the earth, and the one above the heaven will have mercy upon you. So, yeah, this hadith is riwayah narrated by Abu Dawud, and Nasai, Ibn Majah, and so on. Yeah, that's pretty much the hadith. You would notice this hadith in Majlis Qira'at, Majlis Hadith normally starts with this hadith. It's also like a form of love, a form of compassion from from a teacher to their student, because it's the first lesson is about rahmah, about compassion, about love. So again, this hadith is called Hadith al-Rahmah or Hadith Musalsal bil Awaliyat. And if you would like to know uh, like my chains, like I have the links. I'll send that to you. Yeah, in case you interested into that. So that's just a little bit. Now we will go back to the Tajweed itself. So we'll go back to Tajweed. Inshallah, it's already 3 p.m. So now we're going to touch the 10 foundational principles, or in Arabic it's al-Mabadi al-Ashra. So before we dive into the actual book, we probably have some questions like, what is Tajweed? What do we get from learning Tajweed? What are the virtues of learning Tajweed? Uh, why do we need to learn Tajweed? Is it a mandatory? Excuse me. Yeah, why do we need to learn Tajweed? Is it for everyone, or is it just for ustad or for imam, or is it or do we need to learn, and what are the things that covered in Tajweed? And hopefully by end of the session, if anyone comes to you and asks what is Tajweed, or what did you learn from today, or what are you going to learn from Tajweed, you hopefully you will be able to answer that, inshallah. And yeah, so it's called al-Mabadi al-Ashra. So the scholar said, anyone who wishes to learn a subject, a discipline of science, like in this case is Tajweed, it's also applicable to others. Let's say you want to learn Aqidah, you want to learn Tawheed, you want to learn Arabic, at least you should go through some of these points. So the scholar said, a person needs to know this 10 foundational principles so we can be succeed in our studies, so we can reach our goals. And even you can maybe apply this to your daily, like if you want to learn anything, you should start with some of this question or this topics. Because if we want to build something, like we have to like we need to have a strong foundation. Without the roots, we cannot reach the branches. And fortunately, some ulama have written down these foundational principles so that they can be known, they can be learned by us, and we can have a strong foundation before we start a topic. So what are they, and who come up with this? I'm just going to quickly touch on a few points. I'm not going to explain like every single details, but just so you get the gist of it. Um, so it was written by uh, Muhammad As-Saban, rahimahullah, al-Mabadi al-Ashra. It goes, or it runs like the inna mabadi kulli fanin ashra al-haddu wal mawdu thumma thamra wa fadluhu wa nisbat and so on. So so as you can see, the principles of every science, there are 10, which is the on the left hand side there, these 10 points: limits, define, subject, and so on. And on the last part, some like if we know some of it, like part of it, that's enough, like that's sufficient. But whoever know all of them has attained the true nobility. So that's the summary of this al-Mabadi al-Ashraf. Now we're going to maybe let me just check if there's any question. No. I'll carry on. So hopefully the people on the Zoom can hear clearly my sound. If not, let me know on the chat. And if I'm going too fast, let me know. Okay. So we're going to touch some of this quickly. So first is the definition. Starts with definition of hadith. So definition from the Arabic itself, from language. If we go to Google Translate, look for the root jawada yujawidu, like tajweed means good, or like the tajweed means to make something good, to make something better. But according to the scholars, or istilahan, which means this is in Arabic: إخراج كل حرف من مخرجه مع إعطائه حقه ومستحقه. إخراج كل حرف, to bring out, to articulate every letters. إخراج كل حرف, to bring out every letters from its makhraj, from min makhraji, from the makhraj, from the exit point, from the articulation point. So to bring out every letters from the exit points, and giving their permanent characteristics and temporary characteristic. So and giving the sifatul haq and sifatul mustahab. So as you can see, there are three main points. So tajweed is to bring out the letters from the its makhraj first, and the second is to give the permanent characteristics, and the third is give the temporary characteristics. But maybe the question is, if you haven't learned about tajweed, then what is actually makhraj? What does exit point means? What does characteristic means? So we're going to touch that a bit. So first is makhraj. So tajweed is to bring out every letters from its makhraj, from the exit points. So every letter has a sorry, let me just. So every letters have exit points. So Ibn al-Jazari said there are 17. There's some other scholar said 14, 16. There's some different opinions, but in general, it's there are 17. For example, in like in this one, al-maldu, and this one, al-maldu. So maldu and maldu, bod and dal, have they have a different exit points or different articulation points. So bod is on the side, but dal is on the front. So the different of articulation points or different of exit points would give a different sound as well. So that's why one is we need to bring out, to articulate from the correct exit points. So that's one exit point. Or like, for example, ta. Ta in Arabic, in Arabic, ta is on the tip of the tongue, like near the gum. Say like an'amta, and it's a bit different with English. Let's say you want to say a tin. There's more like tin. But if you say wattini wazaytun, you don't read wattini wazaytun. That's like exaggerated. So it's not like English. Or maybe if you say if you move the tongue, wattini wazaytun, that's different sound as well. So that's why the exit points, the articulation points need to be correct. So that's one, makhraj, articulation points. And the second one, is sifatul haq or sifatul mustahab, the permanent characteristic and the temporary characteristics. For example, same ta. So ta, it has a, so in this example, the permanent characteristics, some of the examples like hams, shidda, rakhwa, and so on. If you don't know this, don't worry. This is just in general, and the temporary characteristics like ghunna in ikhfa, in idgham, and so on. So the permanent characteristics is a sifat or a characteristics that stays on the letter, no matter how the letter is placed in the front or in the back. For example, again, the letter ta. هذا البيت. There's a hams. There's a that sound. There's a like a if you read هذا البيت without the hams, then it's incorrect. That is, it's called lahan. We go into that later. But the hams will always be there, whether it's in the end or in the middle. أنعمت هذا البيت. But that's the one example of permanent characteristics. And the second one is the temporary characteristics. So temporary is something that sometimes is there and sometimes not. So in this example, maybe in Surah Al-Kafirun, wala antum. So you don't read wala antum, but there's a change in the sound. Wala antum. So that's a different. But in here you say normally an'amta. So that's temporary characteristics. So hopefully, just to review again. So tajweed is إخراج كل حرف من مخرجه مع إعطائه حقه ومستحقه, which means to bring out every letters from the makhraj, from the exit points, from the articulation points, and second from giving the permanent characteristics, and the third one is to give the temporary characteristics. And if you notice, that's why tajweed actually the science will surround these three topics or three aspects. We'll talk about makhraj, we'll talk about the permanent characteristics, hams, shiddah, rakhwa, and so on, and also the temporary characteristics like the ghunna, ikhfa, idgham, and so on. So as if you can see that actually tajweed covers a lot of aspects, but we're not going to go into all of the details in this session. We're just going to discuss or cover what's being written in the Tuhfat al-Atfal. So if you want to know what does Tuhfatul al-Atfal cover, does it cover makhraj or the permanent characteristics or the temporary characteristics? We'll go into that later after this. So that's tajweed. That's the definition. Al-had. The second one is, so we're just going through quickly 2, 3, 4, 5. So subject. So the subject is in. So it deals. So tajweed only deals with the Quran. It doesn't deal with adhan or hadith. It's only deals like the when we discuss the makhraj, the permanent characteristics, the temporary characteristics, only applies or only discuss the Quran. That's in terms of subject. And the benefit, for there are 3 at least. One is to prevent our tongue from mistakes, from mistakes, or in Arabic is called lahan. So to prevent our tongue from mistakes. What are the mistakes? What are the example of mistakes? We're going to cover that after this, inshallah. So one is to prevent our tongue from mistakes. Number 2 is to preserve the Qur'ans, because tajweed actually is one of the science that helps to preserve the Quran. And lastly, to attain the reward and the pleasure of Allah. As one of the hadith here say, Inna Allah yuhibbu an yaqra'u hadha al-Quran kama unzil. Indeed, Allah loves that this Quran to be read as it was sent down or revealed to us. So, yeah. So because Allah has revealed the Quran to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with tajweed. He passed it to the companions with tajweed, and then they pass it to the next generation with tajweed, and so on, even until us. It's on the very same manner with tajweed. So it's not actually over a text per se. It's not. So Rasulullah SAW didn't really pass the Quran. Hey, this is the Quran, and just read it. It's not being passed like that. So, but it's qira'atan. It's being read, how to read with tajweed, and that's the benefit of learning tajweed, to prevent our tongue from lahan, preserve the Quran, and attain, inshallah, attain the reward and pleasure of Allah. So number 4 is virtues. So the virtues, it's of course is one of the most honored, the most virtuous science, because it's relation with the words of Allah. Because because the Quran is actually like the best thing to learn, to be honest. And number 5 is relationship. So how does the Quran, how does tajweed has relation with other science? So for example, in this tajweed only focus on how to recite the Quran. It doesn't cover qira'at. Anyone know qira'at? What does qira'at covers? So qira'at is a variation. So variations of Quran recitation. For example, in Surah Al-Fatiha, you can read Malik Yawmiddin or Malik Yawmiddin. That's a variation. That's not covered in tajweed. That's a sign on its own. It's qira'ah. So it doesn't cover rasam, waqaf, ibtida, tafsir, and so on. So it only covers how to recite the Quran, like the letters, the words. That's the that's 2 until 5. So we have and and as and as I just I think I mentioned about this lahan. So let's touch that. So lahan or mistakes in reading Quran. So what are the mistakes? So what are the examples of mistakes? I'm going to cover two examples of or two type of lahan. It's called lahan jali or means obvious mistakes, obvious errors, of clear mistakes. Because a clear mistakes or lahan jali may completely change the meaning. So for example, in this one, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, all praise and thanks. Alhamdulillah, all praise and thanks to Allah. But if we say Alhamdulillah, that means change the ha to ha. Instead of Alhamdulillah, we read Alhamdulillah. Maybe if you notice ha and ha, it's different, then the meaning is different as well. So it's not all praise and thanks, but it's death. So alhamdulillah, it's death. So you can imagine the meaning changed drastically. Or alhamdulillah, it's different meaning. So that's why at least you should know how to read ha and ha, even if it's not 100% perfect. At least you can differentiate between the similar letters. Because and other examples like Rabbil Alameen, Rabbil Alameen. But if you read Rabbil Alamin, I think that means sick. Alamin is sick. So it's a change of meaning. So that's why normally, as you can see, lahan jali normally because of this three. One is because changing a vowel mark. Maybe this one normally because you forgot the actual harakat. Maybe instead of alhamdi, that's a change of vowel marks or harakat. Second was changing the letters, which is these examples, changing the letters. That's critical because that would change the meaning. And removing or adding letters. Adding letters, maybe we would think we won't add or remove any letters. But let's say if you read Iyyaka na'budu wa iyya, so it should be budu wa iyya. But if you add or if you read Iyyaka na'budu wa iyya, if you prolong the budu, that means you add a waw. Or if you said instead of Iyyaka na, maybe you read Iyyaka na, that's also removing a letter. So that's removing a letter. That's why we need to be conscious on what are we reading, what are the letters that we're reading. And so that's lahan jali. So lahan jali can be because of a change of vowel mark, changing letters, and removing or adding letters. That three that can cause lahan jali. And lahan khafi is a hidden errors. So hidden errors, it may not, it doesn't change the meaning, but in terms of tajweed, it's not perfect. For example, if you read ikhfa or gunna, let's say you would read inna a'tayna, but you don't in the gunna you only read inna. That's you need to hold a few seconds more, like 1 second more, but that's not lahan jali, it's lahan khafi. It's a hidden errors. So what should we avoid is at least the lahan jali. Even if you learn about fiqh in like in for example in madhab Shafi, uh, in salah, al-Fatiha is a rukn, so like you must read al-Fatiha without lahan jali. But if you're still learning, that's yeah, that's okay, because if you're in the learning stage. But yeah, if we maybe if we already 20 years, 30 years, like how long do we need to correct our recitation? So yeah, that's lahan jali and lahan khafi. So I'm just going to check if there's any question on the chat, or maybe if uh, any questions from brothers, from brother Tommy, or you know it's
Can I question one question?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning actually the another matan is like Muqaddimah al-Jazariyah. So
Mhm.
yeah, so my question is there any significant difference between the Muqaddimah
Mhm.
al-Jazariyah with
Tuhfatul
Tuhfatul
Atfal.
Atfal in term of Tajweed?
Okay, yes.
Because yeah,
Okay, I'm not going to answer that now because we're going to cover that later. So please hold on into that. Yeah, yeah. There's a difference, but yeah, we're going to cover inshallah soon. Any further question? Any other? Maybe on sisters about
Yes,
Muslim.
but you just wondering about another mistake that I can recommend, but I'm not
No
sure
mistake.
whether this lahan or what's another one? Highly. For example, in our dialects,
Dialects.
many nation, they
Mhm.
have a different pronounce
Yeah.
to explain something.
Mm.
For example, the simple thing, the symbol is about we talk inshallah.
Betul, inshallah. Okay.
Yeah, in my understanding, sometimes we use inshallah with yeah,
Which yeah.
maybe another person will they will use salt,
Uh-huh.
and different people as well they use different harokat, different mahraj as well. So
Mhm.
in this case, can we consider that this mistake related to lahan jali or
Or
maybe just
okay.
another one?
So when we discuss tajweed, the topic mostly will be related to Quran. But and in your case, your question about inshallah with sha or with sad. I don't know if anyone say inshallah with sad, but if you notice, there's in Latin there's something called transliteration. So for example, just example, this Masjid Uthman, it with tha Uthman. uh, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, tha is written with ts Uthman, but in English you would put th Uthman, but it's referring to the same letters in Arabic. It's just a different in terms of transliteration in English, in Latin. So same like the inshallah, southeastern like Indonesia or Malaysia will write INSYA, insya, but in English you would put INSHA. But if it you maybe get confused, in Indonesia SH means slaughter. So that's a so we cannot yeah, that's a different of just writing in Latin, but it's actually referring to the same like the same Arabic letter. So the point is on in Lahan Jali is, especially in terms of changing letters, is make sure that you don't change the letters. Let's say if you read Rabbil Alamin, ain. If you cannot pronounce ain perfectly, maybe you still read Rabbil Alamin. It's still a lahan, or Rabbil Alamin from maybe from the nose, still lahan. But as long as it's sounds like ain, it's not like a lahan jali, because you can recognize, oh, it's an ain, not hamzah. But if you read Rabbil Alamin, that's a hamzah. That's changed later. I hope that gives some. Uh, yeah, I hope that answer to your question. And oh yeah, and maybe sisters on upstairs, if you don't want to ask over the mic, you can join the Zoom, and maybe just join the Zoom and put the question on the chat. Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll carry on just a little bit more before we complete today's session. So we've covered from the 10 Mabadi, the Al-Mabadi al-Ashra, Al-Mabadi al-Ashra. Uh, uh, Next one is the pioneer. So who are the author, who is the rule setter of Tajweed? And we can see actually from 2 points of view. One is from the practical, and the second is from the theoretical. So from the practical point of view, uh, uh, which from Rasulullah SAW, from Allah to Rasulullah SAW through Malaikat Jibril alaihi salam, and through Sahabat and so on, all the way with Tajweed. That means Rasulullah SAW use tajweed when recite Quran. Like so, in terms of pioneer on the on practicality, it's Rasulullah SAW. But in terms of from the theoretical, there are a few different opinions. These are the names. So there are a few different opinions, like from Abu Aswad al-Duali, Al-Khalil bin Ahmad al-Farabi, and so on, Farahidi, sorry, and so on. But according to Al-Imam Ibn al-Jazari and Al-Imam al-Zahabi, the first person who have created the Tajweed principles or science in a structured way is Al-Imam Abu Muzahim Musa bin Ubaidillah al-Khatani. Kita langsung al-Khatani, and he wrote Qasidah al-Khataniyah or Manzumah Ra'iyah, 51 lines, and it covers things like the lahan we just discussed. So like, what are the lahan? It's covered in Qasidah al-Khataniyah. So that's from practical and theoretical. And some of the Tajweed poems. So in the beginning, I mentioned that Tuhfatul al-Atfal is one of the Tajweed books in a poem format. So it has some rhymes, it has some pattern, so it's easier to be memorized. And some of the other Tajweed poems, like the Qasidah al-Haqqaniyah, Nunia al-Sakhawi. So the two most common Tajweed books are Muqaddimah al-Jazariyah and Tuhfatul al-Atfal. So those are the two common Tajweed books or poems. So if you want to learn Tajweed, even I know in some school, Islamic schools, like when you want to memorize Quran, you would need to learn and memorize Tuhfatul Atfal and Jazari before you start memorizing Quran. I know some Yeah, some schools do that, or at least you need to you need to learn those two first before start learning, or before start memorizing the Quran. So you get the base foundation first. You get a strong foundation. And yeah, that's the two most famous, Jazari, or common Jazari and Tuhfatul Atfal. And to answer Pak Ivan question, what are the difference if I said, oh, these are the two most common Tajweed poems or books that being used widely, especially for beginners, they would start with one of these two. But what are the difference? So Tuhfatul Atfal is written by Syekh Sulaiman Al-Jamzuri. Actually, it's written later, like Jazari is written first. Tuhfatul Atfal is written later. I think I put the years in the previous slide. But in terms of verses, Jazari has more. So it has 109 lines, 109 verses. Tuhfatul Atfal has only 61 verses, only 61 lines. So it's half. So in terms of topic, if you remember in the definition we covered, Tajweed means to bring out every letters from its makhraj, so from the exit point, and give it a permanent characteristics and temporary characteristics, or sifatul hab and sifatul mustahab. So Jazari covers makhraj, which is the first one. Makhraj covers sifat and most of the tajweed rules, other tajweed rules in Tuhfatul Atfal. So Jazari covers the makhraj, the sifatul hab, or the permanent characteristics, and some of the tajweed rules in Tuhfatul Atfal. And if we compare, what does Tuhfatul Atfal covers? It doesn't cover makhraj. It doesn't cover sifatul hab, like hams, shiddah, rafwa. It only covers. It focuses on nun, mim, sakina, tanween, and mad. So that's more temporary characteristics. So it doesn't cover makhraj, doesn't cover uh, permanent characteristics or sifatul hab, but it mostly cover sifatul mustahab, or also called ahkam are rules, basic rules. So when one letters appear after specific letters, then the sound will change. How does the sound change, or what is it called? Hence, that's covered in Tuhfatul Atfal. So Tuhfatul Atfal has less topic and has less verses. If you would think Tajweed, if you think Tajweed globally, then maybe you would want to start with Jazari because it starts with Makhraj, start with Sifat, and so on. But it takes time to. If you want to start with Jazari, some people might feel it's too hard. If you start with Makhraj and you get it incorrect in the beginning, and you don't want to learn anymore. So normally if you learn Jazari, you must do it with in the tahsin. So when you learn one letter, like one makhraj, one letter, you can practice it in the tahsin course. Because if you just learn the theory makhraj and you don't practice, and it's nothing. Yeah, maybe nothing much on the progress. And Tuhfatul Atfal, it's easier if you want to start to learn tajweed. It's to me personally, it's easier to learn Tuhfatul Atfal first, get familiar how tajweed works, what tajweed covers, how tajweed poems looks like, get the experience to memorize the verses, then go on with Jazari. That's my my personal thought. Question, yeah.
Assalamualaikum.
No, salam.
I have a question. So
Question.
we have on the other side poem, and the other side is Quran,
Yeah.
and we have Tajweed in between.
Mhm.
Are they the same Tajweed between the two? That's the first question. And question number two, scientifically, which one comes first? The poem Tajweed or the Quran Tajweed? Because we know that
So, what's the question again?
we have poem,
Poem, yeah,
poem the other side, and then we have also Quran.
Quran, poem, and
And we
Quran.
have Tajweed in between.
Mhm.
Are they the same Tajweed for both two? Because poem and Quran are different. Or are
Yeah.
the same? Because if they are the same, which scientifically Tajweed come first? The poem or for the Quran?
Okay.
Because we know that the Arabic culture, they are highly expert in
Mm.
poem.
Okay. Yeah. So the question was, we have poem, we have Tajweed, we have Quran. Like, which one goes first? Is that what's the comparison between them?
Are they the same?
Are they the
Tajweed
same?
you're talking about?
So when we speak about Tajweed, Tajweed is only talks about Quran. So how to read a poem is not a Tajweed. Even on a poem, you don't sukun the last harakat. Let's say you read, I don't have an example, but yaqulu raji rahmatil ghafuri, you would read the last harakat ri. It's not in Quran, you would sukun ghafur, let's say. So so Tajweed only covers how to read the Quran. So and the Tuhfat al-Atfal Muqaddimah Jazariya poem is just it's a form to like to store Tajweed information, to codify Tajweed information. So there are other Tajweed books that doesn't form in a poem format, just a normal books. But with a poem, you can recall the rules, and you can have a standard practice, like a standard. If let's say you have a question, well, how many nun sakina, then you can recall one of the verse, and you get, oh, there are 4 rules in ahkamun nun sakina wa tanwin, in rules of non sakinah and tanwin. There are 4. What are the first? If we don't have any guidelines, then we would think around, maybe the first would be idhar, and I think the second is just random. And maybe if you explain again to someone else on different time, you would have a different sequence. But with learning poem or with memorizing poem, though, you have a structure of the first, based on this poem, is idhar. The second will be idgham. The third will be ikhfa. The third is idgham. The fourth is ikhfa. And you have that structure, so it's easier. It has a pattern. I hope that answers the question. And I hope that also answers Pak Ifan question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Bayu.
Yep. So yeah, there's some sharh or explanation in English. In YouTube, maybe you won't find much YouTube course on Tuhfat al-Atfal, and that's one of the reason as well why we hold this course, because there's not much course online from based on my or our limited knowledge. And yeah, so that's we discussed Tuhfatul Atfal. That's what covered in Tuhfatul Atfal, and this is just to get a big picture. What does Tuhfatul Atfal cover? So there are actually two main topics. So if we divide Tuhfatul Atfal in two, 50% are non sakina, which includes mim sakina, tanween. If you don't know what is sakina, what is tanween, we're going to cover that on the next session, inshallah. but 50% is non sakinah or and tanween, and the other 50% is mad. So 50% is non sakinah, 50% is mad, and the drill down, like the details. Yeah, I won't go into details, but this. So the green one from the non sakinah and tanwin covers ahkamun nun sakinah wa tanwin, ahkamun nun wal mim syadadatain, ahkamul mim sakinah, and so on. And the mad, so mad is like mad tabi'i, mad jaiz, mad and so on. So that's under mad lazim. Yeah. So that's hopefully that give you a big picture on what does covered in the Tuhfatul Atfal book. And maybe just two more points before we end this session. So rulings, just two more points. Rulings or the hukum, like is it mandatory for everyone to learn tajweed? Like do we need, or is it a must for everyone to learn or know tajweed? So if we remember from the pioneer slide, in terms of the pioneer, there are two point of view. One is from the practical point and from the theoretical point of view. So from the start from theory. That means learning tajweed. So learning tajweed is not mandatory. Like it's I mean it's not mandatory for every single person. It's communal obligation or fardu kifayah. It's a communal, like to know the details of the rulings, ikhfa, idgham, or the makhraj and so on. It's fardu kifayah. But in terms of practical, applying the actual tajweed is an individual obligation. It's a fardu ain. So if we read the Quran, we must apply tajweed. So that's ulama have that's what the ulama said. It's an individual obligation, fardu ain. If we want to learn, if we want to read the Quran, we must apply tajweed. Whenever you read a Quran, you must apply tajweed. But it's different story in salah. That's why in salah, for example, a different depends on the madhab. Let's say in Shafi'i, reading Suratul Fatiha is a rukun, is a wajib in a rukun fardu ain, and that's why learning Al-Fatiha for your salah, at least you avoid the lahan jali, the clear, the obvious mistake. It's a must. Yeah, I hope that clears your thought. And yeah, again, tajweed is because this is one from Imam Ibn al-Jazari. لأنه به لأنه به إله أنزل وهكذا منه إلينا وصل. Because that is how Allah revealed the Quran to mankind, like with tajweed, and that is how the Quran transmitted to us or has reached us with tajweed. Yeah, that's 9. And last one, the issues or matters. It's basically mirror the definition, I would say. So if you still remember, the tajweed means to articulate, to bring out every letter from the makhraj, number 1, with giving the sifatul huruf, permanent characteristics, number 2, and giving the temporary characteristics or the ahkam tajweed. And plus 1, riyadatul lisan, practicing or exercising. Same, this one is from Ibn al-Jazari. وَلَيْسَ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ تَرْكِهِ إِلَّا رِيَاضَةٌ امْرِئٍ بِفَقِهِ. There's no difference between a person who learns and doesn't learn tajweed, except the practice of the lisan, the jaw. Yeah. So if you learn a lot of tajweed but you don't practice it, there will be no difference with someone who doesn't really learn tajweed. That's what Imam Ibn Jazari is trying to say. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm planning to cover for today. The 10 foundational principles, al-Mabadi al-Ashraf. So hopefully that would answer the questions like, what is tajweed? What do we get from learning tajweed? Who are the pioneers? Why do we use Tuhfatul al-Atfal? And what's the difference with let's say like Muqaddimah al-Jazari? And is it mandatory for everyone to learn tajweed? And what are the things covered in tajweed? And just to summarize, so yeah, tajweed, ikhraju kulli harfin, and so on, which means to bring out, to articulate every Arabic letters from their exit points, from the makhraj, from giving the permanent characteristics, sifatul haq, and temporary characteristic, or sifatul mustahaq. And the benefit, like to preserve the Quran, preserve our tongue, or prevent from mistakes, from lahan, attain the reward, pleasure of Allah. Tuhfatul al-Atfal mainly focus on the temporary characteristics like nun, mim, sakina, tanween, mad, like the idhar, ikhfa, idgham, iqlab, and so on. So al-Jazari is more in the makhraj, as well as makhraj al-halq, makhraj al-lisan, and so on, or sifatu hams, jahar, shiddah, and so on. So we're not going to cover that in Tuhfatul al-Atfal. However, if you have any question, we can discuss on the group. Even if it's not covered in Tuhfatul al-Atfal, we can still discuss any tajweed related discussions. You feel free to send it to the group. Makhraj, articulation points. Sifat is the characteristics. Ahkam, rules, and riyadatul lisan is practicing. So that's pretty much today's session. It's a bit longer than I thought, but hopefully, because we're a bit late in the beginning, and next time we will try to reduce it more, just keep it within that 60 minutes, 60 minutes time maximum. And these are the plans for 10 sessions. But maybe on December, we'll take a review if we will get a break and maybe postpone it to January. But yeah, we'll discuss this. We'll discuss this internally and in the group. And if you have any feedback, please let us know. And any questions post session can be asked on the group. Copy of today's presentation will be in the YouTube. And lastly, please help to take a survey. So the survey is basically to understand what's your expectation, maybe how about the timing of the session, is it okay for you? Or if you have any other feedback, then please fill in the survey. And out of that survey, inshallah, we'll be giving away this book. It's Tuhfatul al-Atfal book with some points on Muqaddimah al-Jazariyah. Inshallah, after you submit the survey, we'll collect the names and we'll announce the winners, inshallah, on the next session, inshallah. That's pretty much. Before we close, any questions from sister upstairs or from anyone in the Zoom session? No. Okay. Yeah. So for brothers, if you have any further questions, you feel free to ask me personally or in the group. For sisters, you can ask the group. There's a sister Poppy in the group, and inshallah I'll take a look if there's any a question on that group. Inshallah, that's pretty much what today's session is. And I think there's some snacks. Feel free to get the snacks. And there's some dates, ajwa dates. Feel free to help yourself. And I hope, yeah, I hope through with us through learning this tajweed, it would brings us closer to the Quran, connects us more to the words of Allah, closer to Allah, and ultimately we want to do everything in our life for the sake of Allah. And may Allah accept our efforts today towards learning His book, towards learning His words, and may Allah count our efforts as good deeds that would lead us to His Jannah. Ameen. Ameen. And anything which I've said was wrong or incorrect from Shaitan, Allah and His messengers are free from it. Wallahu a'lam bisawab. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.